Welcome to another episode of Municipal Focus. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I will be your host for this program. What we are doing this political season is sitting down with folks who are candidates for office, regardless of what level of government, whether it's somebody running on the county level, the state level. We're having an opportunity to kind of sit down and have a conversation with the candidates and get to know them a little bit better. This helps you to make a better informed vote when it comes to the primaries in September and the general election in November. Now, today, we're privileged to be speaking with a state rep candidate for the 6th Plymouth District, Jane Cournan. Jane, welcome to Municipal Focus.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Let's, right out of the gate, tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been a resident of Pembroke for about 30 years. I raised my boys here. I have 3 boys. I've been with my husband for 30 years, and I started a magazine called South Shore Home Life and Style, which people might be familiar with. We celebrate all things fabulous on the South Shore, all the positive and beautiful things and stories and people. And we do the Best of the South Shore, which is a big event these days. We had 270,000 votes in our latest Best of the South Shore, so it's a wonderful way to connect with the community, and people really love it.
So besides being a successful businesswoman, everybody loves the Boss Awards. What else do you want to tell folks as far as any community engagement?
Well, I've been very active in the chambers of commerce. I've been active on various political campaigns, PTO, the Republican Town Committee. So I've always had an interest in the issues, and again, small business is key for me because of my business, and education because of raising my children. So those are the 2 issues that I've been involved in on a personal level.
But business is important. It's the economic engine to every community.
Yes, it's what keeps everybody going. So we need strong small businesses. We need an environment that fosters that. And small business owners rely on the government and on politicians to fight on their behalf and to help them succeed. One of the things in Massachusetts is there are a lot of services for small business owners and a lot of grants and programs, and so many people don't know about it. I started with my partner this magazine, this small business, with very little funds. And it is hard to figure out where to get the resources and help, and to and how to form the business and what forms and how to file. So all that should be as clear as possible, so we can get as many businesses, as many successful businesses, and help them grow and thrive and build a community.
When did you learn that the state representative, Josh Cutler, was going to be getting a job within the administration and that the seat would be open?
I learned through friends that just reached out and had heard through the grapevine and said, now's the time. We've been talking about this. So, good for Josh. He's done a great job, and he's moving on to the administration. But it is unfortunate that our district right now has no representation until the election. That's a long time. There's a lot of things going on in our towns, in the state legislature. If there's a vote, we're not represented, and that's a problem. It's a long time.
How do you feel that not having a special election affects the ongoing budget discussion that's going on for fiscal 25 and any local aid that may come back to the district?
Yeah, what we've been told is that Kathy Lenatra will represent our district, which is fine, but it's just not true representation of the people of our town. So I don't feel like we're going to get someone up there representing us, fighting for our towns to get the most out of the budget and to, bring those dollars back to the community. So it's hurting us.
When did you make the decision that I think I would be a great state representative, and I think I'm going to when did it hit you? Was it a series of discussions with family and friends? How did it happen?
Yeah, it is a big decision. It's a lot of work. I spoke with my husband, I spoke with my boys, I talked to a lot of people in the community, and I looked at some of the issues that we're facing these days, and I feel like we need a fighter, somebody that will really stand up and that will represent the interest of the people of Duxbury and Pembroke and Hanson and Marshfield and Halifax. Like, there has to be our voice, and I feel like I am the best person to represent us and the strongest fighter.
Let's talk. I mentioned it a few moments ago, and we can drill down a little bit, and that is the fiscal 25 budget. The state has said that its revenue projections are not where they should be at, and we could see a reduction in the fiscal 25 budget. Give me your thoughts as to the budget process and your concerns when it comes to being able to get local aid, which is monies for road repairs and road projects, education, as you mentioned, Chapter 70 monies, projects within the district that maybe it could be tied into, earmarked in budgets like that. Give me your thoughts.
Well, it's going to be a really rough time. Anytime you cut money from the budget, there are people hurt by it, people upset by it, and it's an important time to make fiscally responsible decisions and to not be tied to, a donor base or a relationship, so that you can look at it objectively. What dollars are absolutely needed for our schools? How is it used? I mean, down to the line items, they should be looked at. And we have to make sure that we can cut as little as possible, and again, turn around this trajectory so that the cuts are not always are not going to be a long-term thing. We're going to need to figure out how to build the tax base and grow the businesses so that we have money for the future.
One of the issues with the budget happens to be, folks say it's more of a federal issue, but because of Massachusetts' right to shelter, we are seeing a huge influx of migrants here. Don't know how it's necessarily affecting the 6th Plymouth District and if there are communities that are assisting, but they're saying that a part of the budget, that there is going to be a chunk of the budget that's going to go towards those folks who are here, and we're still seeking funding from the federal government as some kind of a solution. What are your thoughts?
I think it's going to affect everyone in the Commonwealth, and I think it affects all of the Commonwealth. The educational system, medical availability, roads, bridges, housing, it's all encompassing. It is a national issue, and the thing that politicians don't understand is that migrants are smart. They're going to go. We're attracting them to come to Massachusetts because we provide housing, medical care, education, all of the above. If I was a migrant, I'd come to Massachusetts, and that has to stop. Read over the original law. It was created to aid homeless children and families, which are our homeless children and families. That doesn't mean we can afford to house and feed and provide medical care for everyone coming across the border. And we have to do something to stop the flow, because there's nothing stopping it right now. And eventually our schools are going to be busting at the seams. Our teachers are overwhelmed. The housing issue that all the politicians talk about is only going to get worse the more migrants we have. And the budget issue, it's a lot of money we're spending. I know that the hotels, our district doesn't have hotels that are housed by the migrants. I'm sure there are migrants living in our community, but between Rockland and Kingston, Rockland alone in 2 years, it's about $12 million we're spending on housing these migrant families. That is a lot of money, and it's coming from our tax dollars. The government has no money, it's the taxpayers' dollars. So what we have to do is make sure that we're not attracting people we can't afford to take care of, and we take care of the citizens that live here. I think that we should prioritize residency. I know that came up and was shot down, but bring it up again because it's important.
We're going to stay on it just for half a second. It's going to be kind of a two-part question. You talked about as far as the law and how the law it may be misinterpreted. Would you be on the front lines if elected to maybe hopefully amend that law, and also what can be done in regards to the situation when it comes to the finances?
Well,
I mean, is this something that we need to pursue the federal government, or do you think that this administration is doing that but not getting anything in return at this point?
Well, they're definitely asking for it, and that should be part of it. But I think the key is to stop the attraction, because if we put time limits on it, if we put limitations on who's covered, the hotels are supposed to house, we have the right to shelter for families. We just had a situation in Rockland where there was a rape, accused rapist was flown in here on the taxpayer dollar, and he is a single man without a family. So why is he living in our right to shelter that is designed for families? So there has to be more follow-up and review of what we're spending our dollars on, and we have to stop the inflow and the attraction, the beacon, or else it could just get worse and worse and worse.
So since you've announced your campaign, I'm sure people are, every time you're out and about somewhere, I'm sure that people are recognizing you. Maybe you're at campaign events and people are coming up to you and talking with you. What seems to be, in your estimation at this early point, some of the key issues in the district that are resonating with the voters?
Well, the migrant issue is huge because it does affect everything. Housing, the MBTA overlay zones, that is an issue for all of our towns, and it will affect the citizens severely. People are concerned about education and parental rights, and I do think there's an overarching theme that the government overreach into the towns and our personal responsibilities, and that's because the housing, take for instance the MBTA. I've been dealing with the 40B in my backyard for 8 years now. The citizens don't want it, the town doesn't want it, but the state overruled and is pushing it forward. And this is going to be on the North River, so it affects the ecology, the river, those people that are concerned about topics like that, and that all gets kind of bypassed because the state pushes things on us. So we want the towns to grow based on what the people are looking for. We do have a great plan coming in at the Pembroke Golf Course, which is going to be a beautiful, and that's working out with the community. And I think that if the towns alone can come up with plans, master plans, or even just short-term moving forward in their growth, as opposed to the state pushing down on what's mandated and what we have to do, or else they threaten funds, etc. So that's a big issue. The housing, I think, and the migrants, and they're all connected, the budgets.
Let's talk a little bit about the Massachusetts, the MBTA Community Act, which affects 177 communities, whether they are a community that is right where a commuter rail goes through, or might be an adjacent community. Right. It affects those communities. Is there a better alternative to this to be able to fortify our housing stock? Because the governor, this administration, even the prior, the Baker-Polito administration, identified that housing was an issue, and they have been trying to find ways to, I guess, build more homes and offer more housing at an affordable rate. What could be a solution?
The affordability is an issue based on what people have as a job. So definitely we want better paying jobs, more businesses, and the inflation has caused the affordability issue to skyrocket. You know, inflation is first and foremost caused by government spending. So it kind of is a self-fulfilling prophecy that homes are priced out of our reach. I have 3 boys almost out of college now and starting in the workforce. We need to make sure that they're able to live here and to have great paying jobs that they can start a family with, be able to purchase a home. And the things that have happened and the regulations are not making that possible. So we have to make some changes and really look overall on how the economy works. I think Econ 101 should be taught in high schools before you learn to vote. Because how can you vote if you don't understand how different bills will influence the economy and change how we live?
You think civics is lacking in schools?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
Civics is lacking in schools all the way up to adulthood. I think we could do a lot more on civics. Okay. and history and our Constitution.
Let's talk constituent services. How important is constituent services as someone who looks to serve, the towns of Hanson, Pembroke, Duxbury, and I think a precinct in Marshfield.
Marshfield, yeah. And a precinct in Halifax.
And Halifax, I
yeah.
forgot that.
Well, I think that we need to better communicate, get people involved, get people information on a number of different methods. Thank goodness social media is growing and there are just different ways to reach people, but having open meetings, having coffee talks, and having the ability for people to come in and ask questions and getting help on their individual problems. I think I told you before, the reason I started the magazine is I worked for an old magazine company that closed its doors, and I was, for the first time in my life, had to talk about going on unemployment, and I had to reach out to my rep because my name changed through my marriage. I had to prove who I said I was. And that was key, or else I would have been in the lurch. And people have random problems like that. Seniors have very significant problems that they need constituent services through medical issues, through transportation, all sorts of council on aging issues that they need representatives looking out for them. So I think that's the best part of the job, being able to talk to people and help them with issues. So I'm looking forward to that.
I would think that when it comes to your district, it differs that not maybe one issue a community has isn't necessarily something that affects another. What is your awareness as to the different issues regarding your district makeup?
Well, you're right. It is a broad range of concerns, and the towns are so different. So that there might be a senior citizen in Hanson that has one issue versus a high school student in Duxbury, and there are 100 ways, 1,000 ways we can work with them and help them with their issues, and that's the wonderful part of this community. We have and then we have alliances with the various towns and having other legislatures on the South Shore that we can work with. So I think that we will have problems that are vastly different for each individual. That's it, that there's not a one-size-fits-all on any issue, and we have to have conversations on an individual basis and make sure that the laws are doing what we intended them to do, and that the new bills or laws will actually solve a problem and not just sound good.
What would you say are some of the issues that are important to you as a candidate, as somebody who will fight regardless to at least have a conversation and at least hopefully have it be worked in the right direction?
Well, I think the 40B issue has been a big issue that I've been dealing with, which impacts the environment, which impacts public safety. We have issues with the road that's leading into it, and we want to make sure that all the development continues to have a safe environment, and that the towns are grown on the right plane. I also have been, as far as education and children's services, I've been involved in a lot of that, and I think there are some public health issues that have come up throughout the pandemic that have made me very concerned. I'd like to make sure that individual public health and medical ethics are always looked after, and I think a lot of that was left to the wayside. I had some strong conversations with Governor Baker and with a lot of people while that was going on, and there has to be somebody to look out for ethics across the board in government, and that would be a big priority of mine.
Looking at, again, going back to the district makeup, you have a couple of communities that actually are coastal communities.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts in regards to working with those communities, especially when a storm comes in? A lot of the communities inland don't necessarily have concerns, but if you have a seawall and knowing if there's a high tide, we hear a lot of stories about damaged seawalls and rising seas. What's your knowledge in that area and your willingness to work on behalf of those communities to get aid if needed?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that is kind of a life or death situation, and that is the reason why I feel so strongly about overall fiscal responsibility, so that we have money available and that we have access to greater dollars when there is an emergency and when there are, issues that can affect the entire town. If a seawall is damaged and flooding happens, that's a disaster that we really need to get solved immediately. And so we need reserves and we need access to emergency dollars. So I think that's absolutely key.
If elected, one of the things, as a freshman legislator, you will get committee assignments. If you are able to have any say, what are some of the committees that you would like to serve on?
Well, I'd like to be involved in Ways and Means because of the fiscal decisions. I'd also like to be involved with the environmental boards and the child and family services. I think that's key for education and for, as I said, the public health. I think I can contribute a lot to it as far as the deep understanding of what's needed, what's allowed, how we can serve the community without overruling the individual. So I'm excited about it. I have a financial background, I have a small business background, and I'm a mom. So those all have been a big part of my adulthood, and I think I can contribute to the legislature.
Yeah, it sounds like almost like in theater. It's like a legislative triple threat.
Right, yeah. What did they call that? EGOT?
EGOT. In closing, if folks want to find out more about you, website, social media, how can they do that?
Yeah, my website is my name, janecournan.com. I'm on Facebook. I'd love for people to follow me, to follow the campaign. And, you know, I'm going to be in the community door knocking and shaking hands, and please reach out with any questions or concerns. I want to learn more so I can do a better job for the community, and I'd love to gain everyone's support and to really make a difference.
Well, I want to thank you for your time to sit down and have this conversation.
Thank you so much.
And I want to thank you for tuning into a program like this, Municipal Focus. The idea of it is to make you better informed, educate you before you decide to make markings on your ballot and submit them. And again, we thank you for tuning in to shows like this. Until our next conversation, have a great day.